is going to talk about product management again with an episode about project roadmaps. So, Dylan, up to you. The floor is yours. Let's get started.
Okay, great. Yeah, so today, following on from the presentation we did last week, which you can see on our YouTube channel, I believe, we're going to be talking about product roadmaps and, importantly, when to say no to a new feature to your product. Again, this is inspired by the Intercom on product management. And we want to say a quick thank you to them for compiling those resources. Okay, so we'll be. Okay, so firstly, just to give a heads up for what's to come, we're going to be talking about one, how to create a product roadmap, and two, when to say no. So, first things first. This is quite important, as I don't know if you know, Luca, but about Facebook, they famously had to face down a revolt from some of its early users when it announced a new feature. It was the news feed. So it's crazy to think Facebook without a news feed, but it wouldn't. Facebook never really would have got the growth they've seen in the past few years without it. So it's important to know about a product roadmap. It's important to know how you're going to face problems, how you're going to add features, and what you're going to do if you face some sort of turbulence, or when to know if it's the right thing to do.
And
Yeah.
this is crucial, especially at early stages, but also all along the way, because I imagine that when your product grows old, um, you know as everybody, you can grow in very dysfunctional paths and essentially add a lot of features and a lot of small tools that are not serving any purpose and are actually damaging the whole product in the longer term. So I'm really curious to learn more about what you discovered.
Okay, great. So following on, so new features expand the scope of the product, as you were saying. It's important to the new features obviously are great. They can do a big marketing splash. They get a bump up in a version upgrade or something that really sparks press coverage. They often provoke new users and brings users back. New features are great. Gets a lot of buzz, but typically new features are the only improvements that outsiders, like a non-customer, will ever hear about. New features are risky. Um, you have to be very confident that they will be valued as they're like children. You have to support them no matter what. You have to ask your customers, would you like, or if you ask your customer, would you like an automatic whatever or a new feature this? Of course, they're going to say yes, since they don't have to do anything about it. It's just they're going to get a new feature for the product they already own or already using. If you offer them, would you like this or that, then you get a completely different answer. So it's really important to know these things before going to your clients or to going to your customer base, trying to figure out what to do, because you might end up doing something that's really not going to be used. And but even though they said that they wanted it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and my personal experience is that um, certain clients and certain users are quite greedy when it comes to new features. So they really throw everything they think about without a real analysis of what is a higher priority or what is maybe a nice to have. And I think it's the role of a good product management manager to discover those priorities and eventually then make the final call. What do you think, Dylan?
Yeah, definitely, especially for relevant to us when you're talking about new technologies such as AI and computer vision. Some other times your client base maybe don't understand the complexities or the technical difficulties in implementing things that may seem easy to them. So you have to be very careful when interpreting customer wants, customer data, and also letting them know how to prioritize their wants in a way so that you're both happy with where the products will go to. So
So would
following
it
on what
make sense? Sorry, man.
sorry, I
Sorry,
continue.
Dylan. Go ahead.
Oh no, no, I wasn't saying.
Well, so does it make sense to collect feedback from clients and from users in initial phase, and then uh, you know let's say review that feedback, try to make sense of it, and then go back to a selected pool of users with options, as you were mentioning, and try to A/B test those options. So put those options in front of the users you trust, and then ask them to make a binary choice, which is a much easier decision than selecting among more than two choices, for instance. And once you have those pairwise comparisons or those A/B tests, then you can derive a rank yourself, and you get an implicit, let's say, uh, importance feature list, and from there you can start working. Does it make sense?
Yeah, and we'll talk about that I think in a few slides later about how we can go about deciphering the client and customer base's minds and making sure that
Mm.
if you're going to put in the effort to release a new feature, considering you already have a few features up and running with your product, which of course I'm sure it's amazing, you have to be very careful because in a lot of times with startups and businesses like this, you have to make sure you're optimizing your technical team's time, but also your time as well. And
All right.
going through these principles may be a great way of maybe saving some of these valuable starter months in these companies. Okay, so deciding where to go can be very disorientating with your product. If you're going to build a new feature, then you need to get them onto your product. So this is where a product roadmap comes in. This is pretty much there to build out of to basically visualize your hard decisions. The bugs you must fix will fight with the features you must finish. The features your customers want will compete with the ones you know they already need. If you focus only on new features, you will build a product that is miles wide and inches deep. And if you focus on repairs, you'll never innovate, just becoming irrelevant. So, hard decisions to be made. You don't know which way to go. Where when you're focusing on improving your product, a great question to ask is where do we suck and where does it matter? So where is it bad and where do the people really want to be using our product, or where is the users really, why do they use our product and not other ones? To improve a product, you have to focus on parts that are both important and disappointing to customers. Both are required. Otherwise, you'll end up working on areas that no one cares about, or over serving areas where you've already done more than enough. So, for example, if you have a great feature that everyone loves and you spend all your time on it, it's like you're maybe the marginal returns to effort in that feature are already maxed out, and you should start
Yeah.
like improving your features that maybe don't get used as much. So it's a thing it's important to know. So just in case your feature doesn't get used, doesn't mean you should just abandon it. Maybe it just needs to be improved.
Yeah, and it's difficult, right? Without numbers, it is difficult to understand which is which. So at Spark, we use a mixed panel for measuring customer behavior, and user behavior. And with a data-driven approach, you can really see what's going on. Where are the clicks? Where is the attention going? Where is the time going? And using that kind of data, then these kind of decisions are actually kind of straightforward, much easier.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we have our, when the customers are happy, we're happy, and when we're happy, hopefully the customers are happy, and we want to make sure that we're able to interpret the data correctly so that we know exactly where we want to go to build the best product possible. Okay, so next up, we're going to be talking about the opportunity algorithm, and this is a concept developed by Anthony Ulrich, who proposed an algorithm, a very simple one that essentially offers a practical way to plan a roadmap, taking importance and satisfaction into account. Ulrich's simple algorithm clearly identifies the shortcomings in a product by getting customers to rank the jobs they need to do by how important they are. As you can see on the right, we have a little example of like a survey that could be used to find out these things. It also shows how satisfied they are currently. The opportunity is then simply expressed as, I think it's there, importance plus importance minus satisfaction. Aside from the simplicity of the formula, another nice trait is how it often highlights the opportunities that would have otherwise gone unnoticed. Regularly, the biggest opportunities lie in areas of the product that managers regard as being complete or bug free or good enough. But simply a minor improvement or on an important task is almost always larger opportunity than a big improvement on like a less important task.
Hang on, a question for you, Dylan. I think there is a problem in the formula. So, or maybe can you explain a little bit more that formula? So the opportunity is the sum of the importance and the so it's twice the importance minus satisfaction. Is that what I read there in the formula?
Yeah, I
You take
think
the
I think it's I think I got this from Intercom. I feel like the maybe the mathematical symbols aren't correct here, but I think essentially what they're trying to do here is so that you don't get a negative. But yeah, I suppose it could be conveyed as twice importance take away satisfaction
okay.
is a simpler way of writing this. But I think it's just to get convey the message that you don't really want to have a negative opportunity or you don't really want the opportunity to be less than the importance. I feel I'm not sure really.
Yeah, yeah. So and the scale is the same, right? Same scale for importance and satisfaction.
Yeah,
So that if satisfaction is maximum and importance is maximum, you still have a very high score. Okay. Okay. So that's in principle that's easy, but in practice, how do you assign those scores? Do they shed a little bit of light on how to assign score for importance? I imagine that they use a scale between 0 and 10. What is 10? What is 0? And how to choose the values in between.
yeah. I was actually thinking about this as well. Unfortunately, Intercom don't really have an answer to this, but you're right. It can be very leading. There's a lot of academic work on this at the moment in behavioral economics regarding anchoring or phrasing. How you do you phrase the question? When do you ask it to who? So these are very important things to consider. I would consider maybe not relying wholly on just like this one simple opportunity algorithm. I think maybe just have
Hmm.
it 1 to 10, make things simple, get the survey out to your customers, get the results. Maybe don't take it with a pinch of salt because, of course, you have all these mitigating factors, but it's really just to see, oh, we didn't consider that this would be like we thought this feature was grand and we didn't need to touch it anymore, but obviously people still think it's really important to them and they're not as satisfied as they could be, for example. So it's more just to give a little nudge in the right direction.
Do you think um, do you think bad numbers are better than no numbers at all?
Yeah, I
Or I
suppose.
mean,
Yeah, it can be very difficult, isn't it? Because you can put yourself into very difficult situations when you are making decisions off bad numbers, and maybe you're left in a worse spot if you just didn't do anything at all. I don't know. Have you had any
because
experience with this?
I don't know. I feel like sometimes if you have numbers that don't match reality, they're much worse than having nothing. Because if you have nothing, you just trust your intuition. But if you have numbers that you can't trust, then you're kind of left into a middle ground where there's a lot of uncertainty. You are biased because you see these numbers, and the minute you see something, obviously you know that observation is going to impact your judgment. So my 2 cent, and I'm not an expert in the field by far, is that if something cannot be measured, just don't measure it and try to follow your intuition, because otherwise it could be very very counterproductive. Productive.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I suppose this is very product by product based. I think for us and our video and our computer vision powered video analytics, sorry, video dashboard, it'd be very difficult since we have a lot of different features, and we also it might just be better off using the concrete data that we know, as you were saying earlier, so that we're able to track clicks and we don't need to rely on survey data. And maybe we can find a proxy for importance and satisfaction by use time and
Exactly.
these other things. So
Yeah, that's what I like, in the sense that if we're using proxy variables, and we are associating, for instance, importance with number of clicks, or importance with number of minutes or number of sessions spent using that feature, that this thing kind of makes sense. It's much more reliable. Then the devil, as usual, is in the details. So how do you make those associations? The challenge really translates into establishing those associations and links in a good way, so that you can capture importance and satisfaction in the correct way. I mean, satisfaction, I mean, you can ask your users, right? And there are many ways to do that. Some of them are more reliable than others. NPR is a great tool that is ubiquitously used, and I think that's actually the one that now everybody uses, right?
yeah, I think I've heard of this
And
one before. Yeah.
so, okay, excellent. So we understood when we understood how to make our decisions a little bit easier with this opportunity algorithm. What's next? 80/20 rule. Great. Tell
So
me more. Tell
yeah,
us more about this.
so here's where the 80/20 rule is essentially an idea that cropped up in Silicon Valley, maybe even before, but very popular, proliferated there. And this is essentially that 20% of the features will get 80% of the value.
Hmm.
So this is where the 80/20 rule can maybe lead product managers astray. The idea that 20% of your features can get 80% of the value may be correct. However, it also means that on important tasks, you're giving your customers a B grade experience when it matters most. This was a point that Mark Zuckerberg actually made very clear at the start of Facebook, and just have a quote there from him. Essentially, what he's saying here is that if you don't address your product's shortcomings, then no one else or someone else might capitalize on them. So if you have some features that 20% of them are getting all your value, and you have some you have 80% of features that really you feel like you're not getting value from the thing. So it's either that like you think, oh, it's just a law of nature, right? I'm only going to get 20% of them are going to get the value anyway. It's like, no, I think you should really be constantly looking at where your features could be adding more value, instead of just kind of accepting like, oh, like accepting that maybe only some of my features will have value, or you need to have all of it all the time to make a great product.
Yeah, this is very true. Actually, for once, I agree with Mark. All right. Okay, the next one. Why not to add new features? The importance of no. I think this is dramatically true, not only with features but with life. It's very important to say no. Every time you say no to something, you open room for something else, right? And that something else could be a game changer, could bring you much more value than those things that yeah, they're just you're bogging, you're yeah messing around with. So tell us more about this.
Yeah, and very important, but also be quite difficult to do, as I'm sure you're aware when you're working with lots of different people. But like I think at the end of the day, great product managers and founders have to realize that building a great product isn't about creating tons of tactically useful features which are
Hmm.
tangentially related. It's about delivering a cohesive product within well-defined parameters. When your product gets traction, you'll find yourself enumerated with good ideas for features. This will come from your customers, your employees, your colleagues, and yourself even, because they're good ideas even. There will always be lots of reasons to say yes. However, it's important to know, as you're saying, that you can't do everything. And if you do, and if you don't know when to say no, then you could be led off the path. And you need to make sure that, as we were saying earlier about a well defined product, you need to make sure that you are sticking with your plan, that you are not going off the trail.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And this is this is not always easy, because you're pulled in so many directions, and some of them are conflicting. So in that case, it's very hard to stick to these rules. Okay.
Yeah, so I was just going to go over just four quick arguments that people, or um, a tangent to you maybe trying to sneak into your product. And it's just important to be aware of these things. The
Hmm.
first one is that the data looks good. This is can be very, very, as we were saying earlier, about selective data analysis. Products are complex systems. When it appears to be an increased engagement, is really just pushing numbers around from place to place. You might need to consider your labels, feature success based on its usage, but did you notice the tags is suddenly no longer popular? Another one would be that it only takes a few minutes or it's quick. I said a lot of bad ideas can be built quickly. Like, don't be seduced. There's no small changes. Even the tiniest amount can add complexity. So it might take a few minutes to build, but then you have to test, then we have to debate, then we have to monitor. So nothing is ever quick. Third is we just make it optional. It's like, and then I think they were saying that this leads to death by preference. So making features optional hides the complexity and it kind of just clouds the
Mm.
interface. You end up creating this messy with lots of conditional designs and a heap of configuration. The hidden cost is that every optional feature weakens your product's definition and you're keeping it tight. And then finally is that our competitors always have it. So just because your competitor have it does not make it a good idea. It could be something they're trying out. It could be a very terrible idea, even. It could just be that they're planning on killing it. You don't know their data. You don't know their customers as well as they do. It's more better to focus on your problem, focus on the product you need to create for your clients, rather than trying to copy or um, do something with someone else's.
So, what's your favorite one? I have my favorite. I'll tell you
I
later.
think I think I like the it'll only take a few minutes one maybe, or the competitors always have it. I think both of these are kind of along the similar vein where it's like it's an obvious thing. Like why not? Like it's a free thing, or like we should be doing this anyway. It's you should really need to think about these things before uh, accepting these to your product. You can't just overladen it. What about you?
No, it's clearly number two. I'm an engineer. You know me, so it's engineers are always underestimating effort. In they are inundated by excitement and they just forget about you know yeah they forget about how much how complicated things are in general, and they just say yeah it's going to take an hour or two, and then it's like a week later you're still there debugging the code because yeah there's still one little thing that is not right. And yeah it's dramatic consequences. I'm the first one making this mistake all the time. So this is probably my favorite. Second one, the optional. The optional is a non-decision. To make it optional, it means that you don't really decide whether or not it should be done. But yeah, all four are valid and good. Please avoid them.
Yeah, I thought you might like this one, so I just added a little bit more on this concept of a free lunch. So, as we were just saying earlier, like even though it may seem it only takes a few minutes to code or to implement, it rarely is, and then maintaining it can be a nightmare, especially when you're striving for quality. There is no real small changes because then it's going to be added into every product decision in the future when you have to consider this
Mhm.
feature in the ecosystem. Also, some other things that you might hear in software products is that if we use this provider, we'll get this for free in our as a feature. Or um, your developers might say, "Oh, we're going to build this thing anyway," or like, "Oh, we have this ready. Do you want us to put it into your product?" So nothing is ever free. It's free. It's not free because you're sitting there listening to them talk about it. You're debating it with your stakeholders. You're QAing it. It's better to just learn to say no when it matters. It's they say
Absolutely, 100%.
new free features are like rescue dogs. You might love them, but they're never really free. It's a lot of different costs that are hidden behind that beautiful face. And we have a little example here. We
Nice.
beware of these people.
Okay, and I think we got to the end. If I was asking you what is the thing that you learned, while preparing this episode, the thing that you're not gonna forget and that you want to share with your audience when it comes to roadmap and feature selection, what would that one question or one thing be?
Yeah, I think everyone knows it's hard to orient yourself and your product and to get your product roadmap going, and it can be very difficult. It's very, every happy company is different, and you can never really get to the bottom of it. For me, what I'm going to take from learning about these things is the importance of saying no, the importance of having a concise definition. Intercom go on a bit more detail about all the things that can go wrong when you don't say no, and it's worth a read if anyone has time.
Wonderful. And yeah, I absolutely agree with you and with the Intercom guys. I think the challenge is that you are able to say no when you have a vision, when you have a clear understanding of where you want to go and what you want to achieve. If you don't have that sharp and crisp vision about the future of your product, then everything becomes fuzzy and it's easier to say yes, because it makes more sense. You just follow other people ideas, or you follow no particular roadmap. So thank you very much, Dylan. It's late. Let's start our weekend, and let's thank our audience. And for the ones that haven't done it yet, please subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much for coming. Bye bye.